Hey party people, in this video we are going to critique a viewer's fashion design portfolio. I say we, but I actually mean just me. It's the royal we. So a viewer by the name of Aaron Carmona sent in the link to his online portfolio for me to critique on video. I don't do private critique anymore, but if you would like to submit work, whether it's illustration or design, for public video critique, the instructions for that are in the description box below. You know I've done a design portfolio critique before, back in early January, but this portfolio is really different. His needs are different. The things that we're going to address are all really different. Okay? And so, I hope you don't hear things that she didn't say that to the other person. These reviews are really tailored to the designer, the conversation we had before I record the video, things like that, right? And if you have questions or comments for Aaron, just keep in mind that submitting work for a bunch of people to look at, it's a brave thing. So please remember to be kind and to be respectful. So here is his homepage. Nice, striking image. When I look at this, because he has his design in the front, I'm expecting like a dark, kind of weird, unconventional, hypersexual aesthetic. But yeah, your homepage, it should be like this, something indicative of your style, but otherwise fairly simple. You click on this and you have the projects, and you can click on one to look at them. Okay, so easy to navigate. The black cube. This is a work in progress, and I don't think you need it. Throughout this portfolio viewing, I'm going to say things like, this doesn't need to be here. And you might be thinking, well, Zoe, it doesn't hurt to have it there. And you might be thinking that, but for me, I think that your portfolio should be edited down to only impactful things, necessary things, because whoever's looking at your portfolio, they're not going to spend nearly as much time as I did or you did looking at it. They want a quick assessment on whether or not you're worth talking to further. The next project is Samhain, and throughout this portfolio, it's very text heavy. By and large, designers and people who work in fashion, we are visual people, and we like to be shown things. We don't like to read about things. And so if you feel that you need to get real wordy and describe and explain so much of your project, you did the visuals inadequately. That goes for everyone, okay? If you feel like, oh, well, they're not going to understand from this and they're not going to understand, that means your mood board is inadequate, your designs are inadequate, you didn't put enough samples in there. You got to do it with your visuals. Here's your mood board. I'm getting autumn, I'm getting warm colors, I'm getting references to paganism and ritual, okay? And then I see this color and fabric story that doesn't super relate back to the mood board. You've got these real cool reds and turquoises and these cool grays in here. And so I'm not seeing the mood board referenced in the fabrics. You see the illustrations and they don't match up with your fabrics. They do match up far better with your mood board. This looks like it matches this in terms of vibe and color. These colors do not work. As for the designs themselves, I'm missing something, because I see these references to the pumpkin. This whole shape, this shearing in here. But other than that, I'm not seeing a ton of references to paganism, to the original mood board. I feel like I'm missing some process stuff where we're seeing more of Aaron's thought process. Some of you may be thinking, well, when the clothes go to the store, We're not going to see the mood board. So if the mood board and the clothes don't match up, who cares? Employers want to see how well you take design direction. Okay, so if they can see a good correlation between the mood board you crafted and the designs that you ended up with, they can see how you will take their design direction and create interesting things from their direction. They want to see that relationship happen. That's what makes you hireable. Your thought process, your ability to go from direction to design. The flats are pretty good. My biggest criticism on the flats is you have this gray here to designate the contrast. I can see how that is useful, but I also want a contrast tone to designate the back of the garment. When you have a dress like this, and you have this gray here to designate contrast, this part here, I want to know, just by looking at your flat, whether that's the front, like we're seeing these ruffles, but from the back because the back is scooped out, or if we're seeing another ruffle in the back. That's an important distinction to make design-wise. And so even if you do have like this dark gray for your contrast tone, if you had, say, a really light gray to designate the front and back of garments, that would be really helpful. Let's go to the next. The owl. Again, I would like to have seen a more informational mood board, or maybe a secondary mood board that really showed more of the physical influences. You use this term demi-couture, okay, a lot. I read all your text, and this term demi-couture is used a lot. And I want to talk about this term. If you're going to keep using the term demi-couture, I want to see some examples that prove it. Show me some 3D samples where you're using these really beautiful finishing techniques so that I know you mean it when you say, I know how to do it legit. All I'm saying is you can describe your stuff however you want, but back it up with proof. Again, there's a lot of text here, and you create a story, and some people may be into that, but it's not a replacement for information. If I were looking for a designer to hire, I would be more interested in, like, let's say you do a really moody, sexy, dark mood board visually, and then if you're gonna write out some text, I would like to see market research. Who's your customer? Who's wearing this stuff? Who wants it? What's this woman like? That sort of thing. So here's your color story. This is what I'm thinking. And this is your fabric story. And other than this yellow, you don't really need these colors here because all the colors are already here. Although the red background is kind of washing out this swatch. And this is one of your more interesting swatches. And then here, I'm not seeing this super bright yellow unless you meant it as a bookmark for the gold buckles. So here is your owl collection. Your sketching is good. Your designs are clearly communicated through your sketches, so that's good. You're missing flats, but I already know you could do good flats. I saw them in the other ones, so it doesn't bother me that much, but don't make it a repeated behavior to consistently not do flats, saying, oh, I have one set of flats, that's enough. It's not, because flats are more important than a lot of other things. And this is your owl ready to wear, your pret-a-porter collection, and I have so many things to say about this, okay? Number one, I wish that your owl couture and your owl pret-a-porter collections were all grouped together, because I think that it would be beneficial to everyone for it to be all seen together. I don't know about the execution of the project because I'm not seeing, like, once you remove the feathers, the owl inspiration is not evident anymore. And since you were lacking previous inspiration information, I don't know how you got from mood board direction to your designs. I really love this whole idea of doing an editorial and a wearable collection based off of one design inspiration. because it really shows people that even though you may have a more unconventional aesthetic, you can translate it into something that's wearable and sellable. Okay? People think wearable is such a dirty word, but it's not. Okay? I don't mean wearable as in basics or fast fashion or anything like that. It's different from the word commercial. Okay? Old Navy is commercial. Wearable just means everyday people will see it and want to wear it, and it can be special and interesting, but not make them feel like they stick out too much. So you want to show that you can do wearable, and that's great. So you're like, oh, I took this inspiration and I turned it into a really editorial collection, and I took the same inspiration and I did this really wearable collection. So I can do runway and I can do stuff that sells in a store. So that kind of approach is awesome, okay? And so again, I would put them all on one page. I would make the design direction and your inspiration more obvious, show more context as to how you got to the design decisions that you did. And then, you know, maybe some flats of some of the more complex pieces and more fabric samples. If you're like, well, Zoe, everything is self-explanatory and I don't have any designs that require me to show what the construction would look like, well, maybe your design isn't enough then, okay? Maybe you need to do something special to the construction to make the design more special. You know what I mean? Okay. Beelzebub. This is funny to me because it says, I wanted to take a darker turn. I'm like, dude, all your stuff is dark. You don't exactly have like My Little Pony skipping through this portfolio, so. It's plenty dark, but this is not a complete project. You have some images and you have a bunch of sketches. You don't have fabrics, you don't have any kind of design direction, market research, flats, nothing. Listen, sketching is not design. Sketching is sketching, and I have nothing against sketching. Design is thinking about how colors are going to work together. Design is thinking about which fabrics are right for what cut and how things are going to fall and fit on the body. And design is thinking about how things are going to be constructed and come together and how the actual 3D is going to look when you put it together, what the embroidery is going to look like, what the beading is going to look like, what the ruching is going to look against this particular fabric, and how the shine of this fabric is going to work with the cut. And is that going to be too much or is it going to be just enough? Okay. If you are sketching without thinking about the end result, which is the finished garment, sketching is not even close to the finished product for fashion designers. Sketching is just a step in the process. And so if you're sketching without thinking about all those things, without having the fabrics in front of you, okay, if you watch my Watch Me Design series, then you know I have the fabrics there. I'm always thinking about what fabrics I'm using. You know, if I don't have the swatches right in front of me, I have a little post-it that says, these are my bottom weights, these are my top weights. Because I'm always thinking about, I mean, am I going to put a welt seam in chiffon? You know, I'm thinking about those things as I'm designing. So if you're sketching without thinking about construction, you're not designing, you're sketching. This is not introducing new information to me. I already know that you can do, you know, really editorial, evening wear oriented designs. I know that you can take a dark theme and run with it. This is not providing any new information. This is an extension of the Samhain collection. And the good things are, the photos are nice and clean, and you can clearly see what's going on with the garments. The bad thing is, you don't need 4 identical pictures. I don't see any new information. This one has new information because her hair's not in the way. That's it. There's not much new information in these repeating pictures, in these repeating pictures, okay? So edit them down to just the one best picture per outfit. I would have liked to seen all of this under one project heading so that I can see, oh, you went all the way from move, fabric, and illustrations, and you're able to take your illustrations and create construct all these garments. Like, that's really wonderful to see. That's impressive. And it should just kind of all be grouped together so people can just see the whole progression. Other work. Internship information, great. This is what I did. This is some of my work experience. These are the flats that I did at Calliope Kids. Awesome. So now you're showing me some of your digital skills, what you're capable of doing in Illustrator, also awesome. But I would put this in a separate heading. Like, I would do like one page that's work experience and then have your resume with that. And then have a digital skills page where you're showing off all of your awesome Illustrator, Photoshop skills, whatever skills you have. Cute. This is not new information that is impactful or relevant. Neither is this so much, okay? Accomplishments, this is great. Any awards, any press you're getting, you should definitely have one separate page for all of that. That's great. And then you have more about the designer. Contact, fine, and then you don't really need your business card. Do not, absolutely do not rate your own skills. List your skills for sure. Do not rate them, because rating skills is subjective and relative. Okay? Here it says that one of your skills is Adobe Creative Suite, and you gave yourself a 4 out of 5. And what does that even mean? Okay, 4 out of 5 compared to what? To whom? And so you could think you're at a 4 out of 5 because of your particular confidence level. Someone who's trying to hire you might be looking at that and being like, does that mean, I mean, he doesn't even think he's that good. He doesn't even give himself a 5 out of 5. Why would I try to hire him when I need someone who's really good at Adobe Creative Suite? For those of you who don't know, that's the whole, you know, Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, like all of that, right? Honestly, unless you know all 12 programs, you shouldn't put Creative Suite. You should just put the individual programs. Someone who's looking to hire someone at this level might think that that requires a 5 out of 5, and you might be there. You might know all the skills that this person needs, but this person sees 4 out of 5 and they're like, this kid gave themselves an 80%, like, you know? Later on, like, you list Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign on your thing. The guy's like, oh yeah, I need someone who knows those things. This guy knows those things. You guys have a conversation. You can have a more specific conversation about what you can and can't do in those programs. But here's the thing. Number one, never ever, ever give someone an opportunity to point out a flaw, okay? So that means, one, don't point out a mistake. If they see the mistake in your portfolio and they want to talk about it, you can talk about it. But don't be the person to point out the mistake, okay? They might have missed it, whatever. Also, don't give yourself a low rating on your own resume so that people can dismiss your skills as not good. Don't give them an opening like that. And then there's a link to your blog. Oh, I forgot to talk about something. So this is under your senior collection. You have this spec pack here. And it says, I treated this as if it were handing off to an individual client instead of a factory. Much information like the labeling and detail sheets are missing. Don't point out to me that stuff is missing and then don't do anything about it. If you know it's missing, put it in there. It's like, here's this glaring error in my portfolio that I'm not correcting. Number 2, it says, I treated this as if it were handing off to an individual client and not a factory. Okay, this is good if you are looking for more business in the made-to-measure, custom, one-off, tailored piece to clients sort of thing. If that's the work you're looking for, great. If you are looking to find a job as a designer, working to send off tech packs to factories to get clothing made in mass production, no. You need to create a spec pack that's ready to go to the factory so that your boss can see that you are ready to construct garments for mass production. Okay? You need to show the skills that you're ready to do, that what you want to do in your portfolio. So final thoughts. 1, there's a lot of great things going on with this portfolio. You have a really cohesive aesthetic. Okay, you're not all over the place. People can understand where you're coming from. And you're demonstrating the vast majority of the requisite skills for fashion designers. Okay, you have the design process there. You have flats. You have decent sketching skills. You are showing that you can construct your own garments, so you understand the garment construction. Because listen, a lot of fashion designers in the industry, they don't sew their own stuff. That's not the point of learning how to sew. The point of learning how to sew is to understand how it's going to come together, and you bring that knowledge into the designing. Okay, and so you're showing that you know how to put the clothes together, and you're bringing that knowledge to your designing, and that's all good. Okay, so you're showing off your skill, you're showing a wide variety of your skills, you're showing off your aesthetic, that's good. Your site is easily navigatable, all those good things, you have some nice pictures. Okay. Here's the big thing that I want you to focus on. I mean, we went page by page and I kind of nitpicked on a lot of stuff, but here's the big thing I want you to consider. You, Erin, specifically, and you in general, okay? I want you to be realistic about your career as a designer and what is available to you right now. Because you told me you live in Texas, and that's great because Texas keeps popping up in my newsfeed more and more. Like, more fashion news is coming out of Texas. The scene in Texas is growing, and that's great. It's great that you're in Texas. However, you have designed a lot of stuff that isn't Texas friendly, to put it bluntly, okay? Because, you know, Texas is not super receptive to dark, editorial, unconventional, hypersexual, like, it's not that real editorial style of clothing that is all over your portfolio. So you either have to move to a place that is more receptive of that, like someplace in Europe, or you have to suit your portfolio and not change your aesthetic. You don't have to change your aesthetic. You like what you like. But you need to be able to design for where you are. You're in Texas, and think about the companies that are in Texas, what is selling in Texas, and think about how you can take your aesthetic and work with it, and also work with who's hiring in Texas. That's why I fixated on the OWL project so much, because I think there's the key for you to appear more hireable to people, to create a more hireable portfolio. You could take your dark themes, you could take the editorial looks, and then to translate them once again into something beautiful and wearable and striking. That takes skill, that takes practice, that takes talent, and that, I think, is the key to hireability. And all of you designers out there, I encourage you to think the same. Where am I living? What's going on where I'm living? Who's hiring around me? I don't need to change my aesthetic, but I need it to work with what is happening in the industry around me in order to get a job, right? Okay. I really hope that was helpful. Please give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new today. Please give some props and love to Aaron, who was so brave to submit his portfolio for public review like this. And if you do leave questions or comments, keep them clean, keep them respectful, please. And, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all those other things. And I will see you in the next video.